Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to the Transfer Talk live show. Today we've got a few players to go about. Players like Gnonto, Tetê, Che Adams, a few players like that. Jack Harrison, we're going to go through all those today and see, well, how we're going. I mean, the first news that instantly pops up to me really is the fact that about a player going to another club instead of us in El Torre joining Atalanta, and to be honest, I don't really think it's that big of a loss, to be completely honest with you. Like, yeah, the guy did all right in La Liga. He's a young player. He looks like he has a lot of talent, but I think in the position we're in right now, we're looking at these players with, a lot of promise and a lot of potential and thinking, well, how's that going to stop us from almost getting relegated next season? And for the money, like, for me, it's one of those where it's a really unproven commodity and it's a lot of money. He'll probably do really well at Atalanta, but they always develop quite good strikers. So it's one of those where, to talk about that, which we're going to have to anyway due to a bit of the course, I don't really think it's that bad to miss out on him, to be completely honest with you. But, if we get into some of the news for today and some of the players that we've been linked with, some of the players that, we possibly could sign, the one that immediately stands out that I've seen, well, another player departure, and apparently in the fact that Besiktas are interested in Demarai Gray, and we've actually stuck a value on him. I think we stuck a value of around, it says here, around 10 million euros. This is on the Toffee Blues Twitter. And it's about 8.5 million pounds, which is still, compared to what we paid for him, it's a ridiculous amount of money. It's a good amount of profit for the club. I think we paid 1.5 million pounds. So to sell him for 7 million pounds profit is really good business. But I don't know, for 10 million, is that really enough for us to get rid of Demarai Gray? Have we got plans of someone we could bring in for around that price, maybe a bit more? Because, for example, I look at like Jack Harrison, and I don't really think there's that much of a difference between Harrison and Demarai Gray, to be completely honest with you. I think Harrison's probably a bit better, but I don't think it's like this unreal difference that means us spending like an extra 10 million on him and getting rid of Demarai Gray. But we've also got an interest in Che Adams and Iheanacho, both being discussed by the Everton recruitment team. Iheanacho has been going a while, and Che Adams seems to pop up every transfer window when we get a chance. He seems to be lately, he's just one of those players that we're linked to every transfer window, and I don't think either of them would be bad signings, really. I think both of them would be quite decent. Both of them could get the job done, but I think it's one of those where, you look at it and go, in the position we're in, I think the thing is we need goals, but we also need someone who could play in a front two when Calvert-Lewin's fit. Dan Juma can fit that role, but I can imagine he's going to play out wide. I think both of these fit that role quite well. Both could play alongside Calvert-Lewin. Both are quite good with the ball at their feet, especially Iheanacho's really good with the ball at his feet, in my opinion. So I can see why they're the players we're being linked with. They're the players we're trying to sign. We're not trying to sign an out-and-out number 9, I don't think, personally. I think it's one of those we're actually in the line of looking for someone who can play in the front two together. So I think it's one of those where I think it's good business from the club. I really do. I think it's smart. I think it's one of those where it's understandable why we're going that way. If the thing is, but both of them, their scoring records haven't. Iheanacho hasn't had a good scoring record since he left Man City. Che Adams is another one where he scored a few, like 5 goals and 5 assists in the Premier League this season, which isn't awful when you think about it. And if you go into stuff like FBref and you take a look at his actual, his percentile stuff, it's really good. But is he going to do that over a full season? Is he going to do that when, he only started, 11 out of those 28 games? It's the same thing as where, in 11 starts, he got 10 goal contributions, but I think he probably got most of them off the bench. I think Iheanacho's a good player, and if we can get him for a decent price, then yeah. But like Peter here puts Iheanacho, Adams, no. Dia, Brobby, Perrault, yes. My thing is with someone like Perrault, though, Perrault scored goals for Swansea. It's like you got 19 goals for Swansea, don't get me wrong, in the Championship, but at the same time, I think Iheanacho and Adams could both do that. I think it's hard to look at these Championship strikers and be like, yeah, they're much better than... I think he's only like 22, 23 as well, to be fair to him, but like Che Adams, 5 goals, 3 assists in 28 appearances in the Premier League, both a bit older as well, so I could see why someone like Perrault would fit. But Brian Brobby's another one I've seen linked with us. That's one that I've seen a lot of excitement for too. 13 goals, 3 assists in the Eredivisie. Again, really good stats. Looks like he knows how to score goals. Quite young as well, only 21. if that's probably my personal favourite. I think I agree with Peter here that Robbie's probably number one on my list to bring into the club. But if you look at the players that we are linked with as well, Willie Gnonto, this saga seems to be going on and on with rumours then coming out about him not wanting to join. Tetê, who played for Leicester, is also a free agent. Again, this is one where I don't really know. Again, he 6 goals and 2 assists in 17 league appearances. Again, I am just reading stats off here, but for his games in Leicester, he got 1 goal contribution in the 13 games he played. It's a free signing, but I can imagine quite a few League One clubs will be in with him as well because of the fact that he did quite well in League One. So I can imagine it's going to be a thing where is the wages worth it. But again, he's a free agent. Stuff like that is stuff. Players like that we should be looking at really. It's one of those where Tetê, a good dribbler, good with the ball at his feet, but it's one of those where for this Everton side, I guess if we do get rid of Demarai Gray, replacing him on a free would be really good business in my opinion. So I think, I don't see why we wouldn't do something like that. I think Che Adams will be a similar transfer to McNeil and start off slow but get better as the season comes around. John, I think you bang on. I think it's the exact same sort of profile. And I don't think he would score loads of goals anyway because I think he'll play in a front two next to Calvert-Lewin, and it'll be a thing where if Calvert-Lewin can stay fit and show the ability that he does have, it'll be Calvert-Lewin mainly feeding off, but Che Adams will do a lot of the hard work off the ball, which, will then limit Calvert-Lewin's injuries because, he's not having to do as much in a front, by himself. There were points last season where it was just him by himself up front, and that's how it felt, until players like McNeil did improve. But then when McNeil got to that level where he was contributing, Calvert-Lewin, his health failed him again. But I think Che Adams would be a cheap transfer. I think that's the bonus with people like Iheanacho and Adams is they'd be decently cheap due to the clubs getting relegated. Dia is one that interests me as well, and that's mainly because I saw that we could be including Neil Maupay in the deal. So it's Bula Dia. I'm not an expert. I think he did quite good at Salernitana. 16 goals and 6 assists in Serie A. Not bad at all. He's a big striker as well. I'm looking at this, surprisingly good with the ball at his feet as well when it comes to playing progressive passes and things. So again, it depends how much we'd pay. I think it really does depend on how much you'd pay. He's had a decent few seasons. 5 goals, 5 assists for Villarreal in only 13 starts last season, 14 goals for Ray in mid-league. And so he's been scoring goals for the past few seasons now. So it is one of those where I could see us taking a punt on him, and I wouldn't. Well, not a punt. He's scored goals for the past few years now. And, a big striker who probably could play up top by himself as well when needed. So it's one of those where he can play that Calvert-Lewin role, but he could also play beside someone like Calvert-Lewin by the looks of it. So I don't think that'd be a bad bit of business at all. But there's a lot of names we're linked with that. Are the board going to sign them? It's kind of difficult. Like, you look at a lot of the players that were being rumoured to, and then it's all of a sudden, will we sign them? Will this happen? Another name that just went out on the Toffee Blues Twitter about 45 minutes ago, I think, was Yuri Alberto from Corinthians. Again, only 2 goals, 2 assists, only 22. But if he's not really scoring goals in the Brazilian league, I can't imagine it's going to do much for us. So it's one of those where I don't really know what to think about that one. And if the transfer is really cheap, I'm happy for it. But again, the Brazilian league has shown that they can actually charge quite a bit of a fee for their players. So, you don't really want to be paying 20 million for someone who's not really scored the amount of goals necessary, to be completely honest with you. So I think it's one of those. With Demarai Gray as well, if we, I'm just going through the Toffee Blues Twitter now, so if we just circle back, it's Fulham, Crystal Palace and Al Hilal are also interested besides Besiktas. So maybe we could get them in a bit of a bidding war with each other for Demarai Gray, with probably Al Hilal ending up the ones who spend the most. But then, of course, that's up to Demarai Gray if he wants to leave for Al Hilal. But I think if you look at the names we're linked to, there's some promising signs. There's the one thing I will give the club is there's some promising signs, some promising players have been linked to the club. But, it's one of them, I saw we've been linked to Daniel Jefferson from Sheffield United too, but that is clearly just blatantly obvious a case of, he scored against us that one season. No, I don't want the guy ever. No chance, sorry, that's the nice way to put it. I think it'd be absolutely stupid from us, to be completely honest with you. And a lot of people will look at it and go, well, he scored that 1 goal against us when he was 17. It doesn't mean any good really. I think that's something where we have to be careful with making a signing like that. And I don't watch much Sheffield United, so he might be a real talent. I think he went out on loan either this season or last season too, but I don't really know what's going on there. If we've already got a young striker like Cannon in the club, who's the one we want to develop towards the first team, bringing another striker in who's probably worse than Cannon if you look at the goal scoring records even in the Championship, then I don't really see a point in making that transfer, to be completely honest with you. But there's a few that are really interesting. We've talked about Gnonto, tooth and nail now. They want around 20 million for him. I don't know what the club are going to do. He doesn't seem massively interested. But I think a few of the names we've been linked to, again, like Brian Brobby is one that looks really... It looks like there's potential in it. I don't really know what the fee involved would be in that. I think it's hard to really say, without scrolling for 20 minutes on Twitter to see how much the fee would be in that. So if it's a decent fee, but again, for someone so young, paying a bit more is not actually an issue. But it's one of those where we'd like to see. According to BBC, we're continuing to pursue deals for him and Wilfred Gnonto. Vinny O'Connor said there's been no formal bid or anything yet, but it's hard to really find a valuation on him. Having a look now, there's no. We're just speaking to Ajax. There's no actual valuation for it, but we'll have to see. Again, I don't think that's a bad signing. I think it's a really good signing, actually, if we can make that. But I don't know. I don't really expect much from the club, to be honest, when it comes to signings. I don't really expect us to go out of our way to make loads of signings. I think we should be utilising the loan market a little bit more. And I am quite surprised I haven't seen anything really loan-related from the club about transfers we could make, about anything of the sort, really. So I'm quite surprised that we haven't. So we'll have to see where it moves from there. We don't really know what's going to go on, really. I think it's a difficult one to really get a grasp on. But, you look at players like Dia, like Brobby, like Gnonto. There is, like I said, promising names in there, and there's people who really could do some real good for the club up front. But it is nice to see that we're looking at a lot of strikers as well. I think we're desperate for strikers. I am a little surprised I haven't seen anything about maybe another defender, maybe specifically a left back. But maybe Daesh has faith in Mikolenko. Everton investment news, Sky Sports conditions technical deal with, of course. Yeah, that's it. It's every transfer window, really. It's just, it's one of those where every transfer window it seems to be the same thing, and then we don't really do any business until the last week of the window. But at this point, it doesn't really surprise me, to be honest with you. This is nothing new from the club, really. So I think it's one of those where we're just going to have to wait, and it's just, again, it's nothing new. This practically happens every transfer window. Yeah, I don't really know. I can't see us doing any business before like halfway through August, to be honest with you. I really can't see out for another 2 weeks. I'd really like us to get maybe 2 or 3 signings in before the season starts, but are we that far away from the season starting even? The 11th of August, so yeah, we're like 2 weeks away, and we've made Danjuma. I think that's it. And don't get me wrong, I'm really happy with the Danjuma signing. I think it's a really good bit of business. I'm glad the club went back in for him, but we're in a position now where we will probably want to be bringing players in so they can trade with the squad a bit. The first game against Fulham, we're starting off with a winnable game, so it's not always the end of the world. We've got a winnable game to start off with, but then, right after that, we've got Aston Villa away, which is going to be a really difficult game. So you'd like some new signings probably to be in by then. Like I said, we've got a decent start to the season. Mark here with Gyökeres was the only signing I was hoping for. Yeah, again, it's a difficult one, and I think we definitely could have signed him, especially the fact that Ellis Sims went to Coventry, and there was clearly an interest of Coventry to replace Gyökeres with Sims. But again, it's just Everton for you. It doesn't really surprise me. Wormy here with Che Adams is rubbish. I don't think he's awful, but yeah, I think it would. I don't think it's like Morpay level. I think he's like a level above Morpay. But again, I think that's unfortunately it's the position we're in now with signings. We can't really be going for these young, exciting, promising players because there's just other teams in England that have got much more prospect than us right now. Even teams like Leicester and stuff. It really won't surprise me. That if players have joined them over us. To be completely honest with you, the way we're going right now. But hopefully I'm proven wrong, and that I think Danjuma is an exciting signing. and hopefully, it's a bit of a statement of intent. He was scoring goals in the Champions League a few years. I think he got 6 in 10. Demarai Gray being linked to a move for Turkey, but that's Turkey replacing Nathan Redmond with Demarai Gray. I agree with this. Iheanacho Wormy is much better than Adams, and he's, if we're going to go for the cheap option of striker, the one I prefer, Sean here puts Joel Perrault. I don't know the price Swansea have got on Perrault, but again, I think there's a lot of strikers I'd prefer, but I think Perrault probably does fall into that cheap option. But I think it depends on how much, really. I said it at the start. He scored goals in the Championship. I think Iheanacho could do the same. Iheanacho's about to turn 27, though. Perrault's 23, got a few years on him. So it's one of those where we'll have to see. But I don't really know the price tag that's been put on Joel Perrault. So again, I can have a look, but I'm not massively sure. But go sign an injured player, dear. Like I said, I don't think I'd massively be in for Dia. Don't get me wrong. I think the big promising part about Dia is getting rid of Maupay and including Maupay in the deal. But I think looking here, apparently Southampton have made a bid for Perrault for about 10 million with add-ons, so it would be about the same price as someone like Iheanacho. But again, I'm not against it at all. Peter here puts MSP investment was not for transfers but stadium costs, no worries. Yeah, again, I'm not really surprised that loads of money hasn't come in. I kind of expected this to be a quiet window anyway. So it's one of those where it doesn't really surprise me. I don't know if it surprises any other fans, but to me, I didn't really expect much this window financially unless we got rid of someone like an Onana or even, a player where we could get big money for them or decent money at least. But yeah, this is kind of what I expected, maybe 3 or 4 players with 2 of them being loans. But again, I think that's enough to push us towards a race for mid-table and to push us towards a race to be in a position where in January there's a lot of players may want to sign for us more because they're not worried about getting relegated. It's as simple as that, really, for the position we're in right now. But yeah, I think that there's a few that are interesting, and for Perrault, it's one where I could maybe, I don't know. Or with Perrault, I think, I mentioned him at the start, Sean, but now you mentioned him, it does injured. It does interest me. So I don't know. From what I've heard from Swansea fans on videos I've watched, he's really good. Front puts get Iheanacho and Che Adams in different plays for different types of games. Again, if we can get rid of Neil Maupay, I'm not against this. But again, if Neil Maupay's there, I don't really want so many strikers to be sat there, taking up wages, to be completely honest with you. I don't know what's going on with Lewis Dobbin. I haven't heard anything about a loan for him, and apparently he was impressive in the game against Bolton. So I don't know if Sean Dyche has got plans for him now to include him in and around the first team. We'll have to see. But, again, I don't know if I'd want both of them in with a fan. I'd rather us focus on positions we need. If we're going to do that, I'd rather us get a young striker in on loan from one of the top teams. I don't know how long Broy is out for. Is Broy out until the end of the year again? But again, we don't know how he's going to come back from that injury either. So it's one of those where it's difficult, again, to really get a gauge on whereabouts that's going. But yeah, again, I'd really like to bring Iheanacho in. Iheanacho as a player I've been a big fan of for a while. And I think, he's shown in glimpses, the ability's still there. But again, with Leicester, it was just difficult with all the stuff Jamie Vardy was doing in this season. It was a difficult one for him. I don't really think it excuses him. He had players like Maddison and Barnes around him, but sometimes that Leicester team was just hopeless, and it showed by the fact that a team with that much talent got relegated in the end. So, but yeah, I think there's a lot of business we could do on the cheap, I think, with the teams relegated around us, especially as well. Like I've said a few times on this channel, that those are the best 3 teams to go down in a while. So there's a lot of talent in those 3 teams that we could take from. And I think we should take the chance to take from. You're seeing even players like Lavia are being linked to £40 million moves while in the Championship. Still need a winger, a fullback, a centre-back, and a midfielder after Iheanacho. The winger I can and the midfielder can easily be loaned in my opinion, but I think I agree with you. If we can get Mason Holgate out of the club, but apparently there's something about his wage is increasing, and I can't imagine anyone wants to pay Mason Holgate 70 grand a week, to be honest with you. But yeah, I think, right now we've got Tarkowski, Godfrey. Who've got? Tarkowski, Godfrey, Brandthwaite. Holgate, too, Keane. But yeah, I'd much rather us get rid of Holgate and bring someone else in. But again, there's probably young centre-backs out on loan that we could bring in who've impressed. The lad from Man City, Howard Bellis, who played really good in the under-21s Euros or under-23s Euros, whichever it was, he was really impressive. He captained the side. He was quite good for Burnley last season, apparently, as well. But, it's one of them where I definitely agree with me. I think all those positions need to be. Gnonto not interested, as apparently he prefers Championship football. I think it's just one Damien where it's just, going to start with Keane and Tarkowski. I know. Hopefully it's Bramthwaite's given a chance at the start of the season over Michael Keane, or at least when Michael Keane drops 6 clangers in a row, then he realises and doesn't give Holgate the chance and gives it to Bramthwaite. He was really impressive in the Eredivisie. So I don't see why he's not given a chance. Clearly he can play an ability, or he's where at he was playing European football. He can clearly play for us. It's one of those where I think it'd be silly of us not to at least give him a chance, because then I think we are just going to end up losing him when he's not given chances. And I think it is going to be Tarkowski and Keane, because Sean Dyche likes to stick with what he knows. So it really wouldn't surprise me, but I don't know. Again, this is one I actually don't know about with Jack Harrison is, I don't know how much it'd be. 5 goals and 7 assists in the Premier League, decent numbers, don't get me wrong. He got 8 goals and 1 assist the season before, 8 goals, 8 assists the season before. So it's one of those where, but for like 15, 20 million, I think Demarai Gray is just as good of a player as Harrison for about the same price, to be completely honest with you. So I'd rather just keep Demarai Gray. It'd cost us less, to be honest with you, to just keep him. But what shocks me is we should have injuries. We are really looking at relegation in the face again. A striker is essential, and we all know. Yep, I think you are right, Matt, but it does look like the club's looking at strikers. But again, with this club, will they get that over the line in time? We'll have to see. Gnonto said he wants to play football at a high level, so he might as well stay at Leeds. Again, it's one of those where it's up to him, really, but I think he's got a much better job of coming to the Premier League, doing good with us, and then getting the move compared to scoring goals in the Championship. Or he's going to try to keep McKean defence. Going to be, imagine starting this season with no defence. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. Like I said, hopefully Bramthwaite's given the chance he deserves. And then, having someone who can play the ball out a bit from the back would be nice as well. Because Michael Keane's okay at that, at bringing the ball out from defence. But then the problem is, we've been playing a bit of a high line under Sean Dyche, and playing someone as slow as Michael Keane in a high line, it just doesn't work at all. Because I think clearly Sean Dyche wants to play a bit more expressive football than what he's, rumored with the things his assistant was saying, things he said in interviews. You look at the way, I know it's Bolton in League One, but you look at, I think the style of play he's trying to implement, I think you can see that he wants to try get this style of football in and around the club, really. So we'll have to see. But if he wants to start like playing the ball out from the back and stuff, there's just no chance we're doing that with Michael Keane at the back, because he's just too error prone. And 16 mil for Harrison, I read. Again, when, like you said, Tetê is available and free, we've already got Demarai Gray in the club. I think, unless we can give them a load of installments for him, I think Gnonto's only a few million more, and he's like 4 or 5 years younger. So I know Gnonto's saying he wants to play high-level football, but again, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up joining, Imagine being a striker for 17 years and signing one that's recovering from a knee injury. Yeah, it really wouldn't surprise me with Everton. I think we need someone who the problem is we need someone who we can get consistent minutes out of, because it's the entire reason we're looking for a striker in the first place. It's that simple. We need someone who's got a good record of not getting injured over the last few years. And like you said, Dia might be a goal machine, but if the lad's only going to play 20 games, and then Calvert-Lewin's only going to play 20 games, and then knowing that injury they'll both get one at the exact same time. It's one of those where it's just a situation we're running ourselves into, really. And when there's a few good strikers available with good injury histories when it comes to, not getting injured, I don't see why we're looking at DCL's looking fit in the videos I've seen. Again, yeah, he might be, but the injury history's there too much, and it's the injury history is it's too worrisome to not have someone there to back him up. You okay, mate? Adams worth a run out. Yeah, gang, like I said, I'm not against Chat Adams coming in. I knew what you meant, Davey Daughter. I'm not against Adams coming in at all. I think Adams would be a good signing, especially because I can't imagine it'd cost too much anyway. And if it looks like they're going to bring in Perrault, there's clearly room for Southampton to get rid of Adams, and I don't think it'd be bad at all. He's a hard worker as well, which I like about Adams. Yeah, he sums it up perfectly. DSL always looked good in training, and then he'd get injured before Premier League games. I think it was last season. It was a lot of Sean Dyche didn't want to take risks. He wanted to make sure he was nursed back to full fitness, to the point where hopefully he's been, nursed the right way. His injury's been treated the right way. So now we look at it to the point where there you go. He can play consistently, and even if he gets a small knock, it's not going to take him out for ages like it had previously. I think it's that simple, really. And Wormy puts even a small injury, it's going to be time to get fit and then adapt. Everton ain't got that time, but that means nothing to Ken Roll. Yeah, bang on. Again, I think the situation we're in now, we don't have the room. We don't have the maneuverability to just go, here we go, let's sign an injury-prone striker, because it'll just get us in a place where we just don't want to be, to be completely honest with you. So I think it's one of those where, again, I think I'd just prefer us to just be careful and to sign someone who's, in a position to, to do well, to put it simply. I know it's not the greatest description. Everyone should re-sign Dan Gosling. Eugene, come on. Come on. It's like, come on, man. Dan Gosling. So I'd rather us just bring a young lad in on loan. I know we haven't got much well, no, actually, we do have a decent bit of experience in midfield. We've got, why have I forgot his name? We've got Idrissa Gueye. So, I think we've brought someone in like Ashley Young for that. So I don't think bringing someone like that is necessary, to be honest with you. But get Rodwell back. I think, so I think it's one of those where I'm not, like I said, I think the players we're looking at it's not awful, to be fair. I think we're looking at some decent players, and we're looking at some players who could really help us. But it's one of those where, are we going to do an Everton and not really give and not make, or we're going to make the signings and then not follow up on them. We're going to do all this stuff where it's just not going to work for us, or are we going to make smart signings? Defo get Barkley back. It's getting to the point where I do see Ross Barkley genuinely coming back to the club, and it wouldn't surprise me. I think it's one of those where, honestly, it just, at this point, it wouldn't surprise me at all. If he came back, can we afford to wrap DCL and Callum? Will ever seen him we sign a decent striker? Well, yeah, unless we sign exactly. You bang on, Mark. So I think it's one of those where we need to have someone who can not only play besides Calvert-Lewin, but at the same time can also put himself in that position where they can play up front by themselves, and it's not it's not panic stations because, oh no, what are we going to do? Our striker's injured again, and we have to play Neil Maupay up front, or we have to play Ellis Sims up front, or not even Ellis Sims now, Lewis Dobbin up front. I think that's the situation we're in right now. I mean, I'd probably rather start Dobbin than Maupay, to be honest with you. But it's walking ourselves into the fire, really. That's what it feels like. It just feels like we're just making a very, very stupid move, to be completely honest with you, when there's options there. Sean puts Alfredo Morelos. To be honest with you, it looks like the lad can't look after himself health-wise, and when our big problem with our current striker is he can't stay healthy, bringing in another striker who just seems to, to put it nicely, likes to indulge himself a little bit too much, I don't really think that's a smart idea either. I know he's free, but, it doesn't mean it's worth it all the time. Danjuma scores most as a number 9. He could be an option there if DCL doesn't start. I do think you're right, but he feels more like a winger. If we sign another winger, don't get me wrong, Danjuma might be the second choice striker, and then I'm not against that. But it does look like Danjuma's been signed to play on the wing, so we will have to see. I don't think it's a bad idea at all, to be completely honest with you. I don't think it's a bad idea at all, to be completely honest with you, like you said. So Danjuma as the other number 9 would work, but if he wants to play 2 up top, it could be the fact that it's going to be Danjuma Calvert-Lewin, and it would offer us some pace up front, but no plan or plan it would seem to be chasing Torre's ghost, then panic buy whatever garbage you can. Yeah, again, I might get proven wrong, and he might go 20 in Serie A, but I really don't see why we were so, obsessed with El Bilal Torre. What is it? He's 22 almost. So he's 2 years older than Gnonto, and he got 7 goals and 2 assists in 15 starts, which, don't get me wrong, is really good. But how many players have we seen play who have these big moments for lower / relegation teams in every league. Then they move and they're absolutely awful. I'm not saying he's going to be awful and he's still really young. But 30 million for someone with 7 league goals. I don't care how many starts it's in. If it was 7 league goals in 7 starts, then we'd be talking something different. And a goal every 2 games is still really good. And clearly the ability is there. He's talented. But in the position we're in, spending 25 to 30 million on someone and going, well, let's hope it works out. I think this is one of those where it might be looked at fondly that we missed out on him. But like I said, Atalanta have a really good track record of developing strikers. Look at how well Ademola Lookman did there last season. So it's one of those where, yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if he ends up scoring 20, but I don't get why they were so obsessed or why we only seem to be able to work on one transfer at a time. Yeah, it really does feel like that, doesn't it? It really does feel like we were only able to negotiate once at a time. But, it's not a surprise. It's the position this club's been in for years now. So it really doesn't surprise me, like you said, Werner. I see everything happening in the last week of the window. I see us panicking and we end up paying 20 million for Iheanacho when we could have signed him now for 15, for even closer to 10 million. You look at it and you just go, is it really a surprise that the club's got no plan? No, not really. Or if the club does have a plan, it's very linear and there's no branching. The plan was El Baltore, when it should have been, okay, if this doesn't work, we could have this guy. But again, we're linked to the right names, in my opinion. That's one thing I will say is I think we're linked to the right names, and that's always a positive. I feel like this season, compared to others, there's a lot less transfers where you look at them and go, oh dear, in the past few years, there's always been a few where you look at them and go, that'd be a disaster. This year, not so much, to be completely honest with you. Unless someone can think of one, I can't really think of a transfer rumour I've seen that has made me go, that'd be an absolute disaster if we signed him. It looks like what happened to Beto. I don't know, to be honest with you, actually. The Portuguese guy from Udinese. I didn't mean to do that. Yeah, the Portuguese guy from Udinese. Let's have a look. I think, did he get injured? Again, 10 goals, 1 assist. He might have just fell off in the second half of the season. He might have just not contributed as much. I'm trying to see if I can get something for his last few games of the season, but I don't really know, to be completely honest with you. There might be someone who's got a bit more expertise into Italian football, but maybe the goal scoring just dried up a little bit. Maybe he just hit form for one period of time. But I think they asked for quite a lot of money as well. Money which, I think they asked for like 25 million, and the guy's 25 and only scored 10 league goals. Yeah, he's not worth 25 million. I think Dobbin showed up Bolton for an hour. He's more important than Morpay. I think a broom would be more important than Morpay, to be honest with you. I think an actual broom up front would do a better job. Nothing will happen last week. Clubs won't let their players. They won't go with no time to replace them. Glad Glenn Rowan was here. Obviously, all these people in negotiations. 38-year-old free agent. Yeah, hopefully, like I said, hopefully the club proves us wrong. But if you just go off the past track record, it does feel that way. And it does feel like we're just stuck in the same loop of things over and over again. And that no one is actually learning from the mistakes we've made in the past. It's kind of the feeling you get from this all. So, again, it's we'll have to see what the club do, really, and what the people around the club do. I think, like I said, I think Ashley Young was a decent signing, and I think if you look at the names we're linked to, the names are promising. It's just, are we actually going to go for these names, or are we just going to get linked with them? That's the problem we're in here. So, yeah, if anyone else has anything to put in the chat, go ahead and we can talk about it. Any other players you'd like to see at the club, maybe. But, I'm thinking here, I'm just thinking, now I'm thinking, what direction are the club going to go in, Are the club going to actually try sign someone now? I mean, you look at clubs like Brighton, who got their business done really early and, gives them more time to, it simply gives them more time to not to develop, to say, but more time to just more time to get in with the club, more time to train with the team, more time to get used to the system. And don't get me wrong, Roberto De Zerbi's system is going to be a lot more complicated than Sean Dyche is. No offense to Sean Dyche, because I do think the personnel plays a factor into why that system has to be a bit more basic with us. But I noticed most haven't made a lot of signings. You are right, that boy, but again, it's one of those where if we're in a situation now where all these other clubs want to do their business late as well, then we're stuck racing other clubs when we can guarantee DCL gets injured within 6 weeks from here. We'll have to see. Like you said, hopefully, we actually, hopefully the entire point Callum didn't play towards the end of last season was to nurse that injury and to get him back to full health where we don't have to worry about his knee or his leg giving him on him again. If Christius puts here Iheanacho, Gnonto, and a couple of cheap punts on you from abroad, at least one of them a striker. Exactly. Iheanacho and Gnonto, I think we've got the money to do, and then the rest be on loan because Gnonto can play out on the wing as well. So it's one of those where how many people do we pay to sign 2 people a window? God knows. It'll be quite a lot of people will be involved in the scouting department at the club, though. Yeah, it'll be quite a lot of people. But yeah, we'll have to see, well, we will have to see, really. So it's one of those where God knows, really, it's hard. It's hard to just, you look at the names because we're always linked to so many names every transfer window. We're interested FC by the looks of it. But, we're always interested FC, but it's one of those where, you look at it and go, are we actually going to do it? Like, is there just one old dude with yellow pages in a cupboard with a sign on the door that says recruiting? Yeah, again, it won't surprise me if that's the case. I do think it's a bit more complicated than that, but so it's one of those where I don't really know. Crazy part now is Leeds need cash flow for FFP, but are reluctant to sell Gnonto. I don't know if it's Leeds are reluctant or if it's Gnonto's reluctant to move. I think it happens every window, doesn't it? Where relegated clubs get really stingy with the players. They don't end up selling the players, and then they get themselves in a really difficult situation. We've seen it in the past with multiple relegated Premier League clubs where they don't sell all the high earners because either they can't or they're not willing to, and it ends up biting them in the ass. So, yeah, I know. If Leeds want to repeat what happened in 2005 all over again, go for it, in my opinion. But I think they're going to be in for a bit of a rude awakening if they think they're just going to walk the Championship this year. It looks like this year, to be honest, the Championship's going to be the most highly contested it's been in quite a long time, to be honest with you. So I think Leeds are looking at it like they need the strongest squad possible in even an attempt to stay up, to be honest, an attempt to come back up, to be honest with you, because they've got the squad, but you look at the defence and stuff, there's players good enough in the Championship to still rip that defence apart. And every season they're in the Premier League, they conceded a ton of goals. So I don't expect them to suddenly become an assured defensive team, not at all. And I mean, Daniel Farke's good for the division, but even if Leeds do come up, I think under Farke, you've got a ceiling, unfortunately, and that ceiling's straight back down or 17th. No offense to the guy, but he's shown he flopped at Mönchengladbach. Norwich teams always did well, but then when they'd come up, they were never really able to consistently they were able to get results, but they weren't able to do that consistent enough to stay up. Is Gnonto coming towards us staying at Leeds? To be honest with you, Dominic, right now it's a we don't really know situation. Maybe. I think it doesn't seem like many other clubs are interested in him, or that it just seems like every club that is interested in him isn't taking the punt to bid what Leeds want. I think a lot of clubs are just sitting there and hoping Leeds will reduce their asking price if there's not enough interest, and then that Gnonto kicks up a fuss about leaving towards the deadline. But even if he does that and Leeds have to lower the price, then where I think they're getting a bidding war with other teams when Gnonto has said, Gnonto ain't calling Leeds told us to piss off because we were messing about. No surprise, really. It's just a hope that Leeds get desperate to sell him because they need money and then are willing to negotiate with us and let us pay the price we pay. But that's not how this club works. So it wouldn't surprise me if don't expect Gnonto. I expect it to be a different direction this transfer window. But again, we might be wrong. And maybe us selling Damari Grays to get all the money to bring Gnonto in. But if we don't have like 18 million pounds to spend, then we in the Premier League of all things as well, we're in a really difficult situation this season, to be completely honest with you. If that's the point we're at. But yeah, to be honest, I think that's we've got a few more comments here that I'll read out actually. Dan Mice makes Everton Stadium offers in predictions. Yes, surprise. I don't have a clue what you mean by that, to be completely honest with you, mate. But I think that is going to be all from me today anyway. I hope you did enjoy watching. Like I said, unless another comment flies in quickly now, that I'll quickly read. But I hope you did enjoy the stream. If you did, make sure to please like and subscribe to the channel. Make sure to follow the Toffee Blues on Twitter at Everton Newsfeed, and make sure to follow me on Twitter at Callum Brannan3. I will see you all for the next live stream or video that I'm on. Goodbye, everybody.